Working the plate. This is usually an umpire's favorite thing to do. Working the plate is where the action is and where umpires have a lot of fun. But there are many, many small things that go into making an umpire a good plate umpire. Before we get started, I want you to notice that this film is originating from Phoenix, Arizona, where we have sort of adapted a new type of uniform. It gets pretty hot down here, so this is much cooler to work this way, and instead of a mask and shin guards and chest protectors, we have this little prop here that we use to put up. Just kidding, just kidding. Working the plate. Working the plate is just that. It's work. You don't work a game. You work a pitch. And then another pitch. And then another pitch. And then another pitch. And then another pitch. And in this fashion, pitch by pitch, you will complete the game. All umpires should work with this type of mindset, pitch by pitch. We're talking here today about plate umpires, but this applies to base umpires as well. This will help you maintain the focus needed to call a good, accurate, and consistent ball game. Every single pitch requires your complete concentration. You get ready for the pitch, you focus on that pitch, then you relax. You let that pitch go. You may have nailed it, you may have booted it, but it's over, and you must get ready to focus on the next pitch. Pitch by pitch. The first thing about working the plate is getting in the slot. The slot is this area between the catcher's body or head and the batter's body when the batter's in a natural batting stance. Now, of course, we know some batters get closer to the plate and things like that, but for the purposes of learning what the slot is, it is between the catcher and the batter when both the batter is in a normal batting stance and the catcher is right here behind the plate. We also know that catchers will move to one side or the other for particular pitches, but the slot is the area between those two. Umpires in the slot should line up their inside ear with the inside edge of the plate. You can see here how this lines up. The umpire's chin should be above the catcher's head. The slot is the same whether it's a right-handed batter or a left-handed batter. You simply mirror the stance. What does the slot give us? Why not just work over the head? Well, if we set in the slot properly, we are, in fact, as you can see here, completely outside of the strike zone. But this gives us the opportunity to be able to look down and through the zone. We can see the entire plate, the entire zone, and we have a good look at that low and away pitch, which is probably one of the most difficult pitches to call. The stance is also very important to the umpire, and an umpire must establish a very solid stance behind the catcher. The way to get solid is to open your legs wider so that you are balanced. That your legs in your stance should always be wider than your shoulders. When you drop in your set, your shoulders are pretty much square to the plate. You're not angled, you're facing the pitcher, and you're square to the plate. In your stance, if you don't feel quite comfortable or you're having to drop too low or something like that, widen your feet a little bit. That usually will be something that makes you a little more balanced, gives you a little more solid foundation, and allows you to be more comfortable. Now, the stance you're going to use when you drop set is called the heel-toe stance. And here's an overhead view of an umpire in the heel-toe stance. We're going to explore this a little bit here. What the heel-toe means is it's the heels of the catcher's feet, which you cannot see here, but that line is touching the heels of the catcher's feet, and it runs through here to the front toe of the umpire's foot. Then we also have another heel toe, which is the heel of the umpire's slot foot, and that line runs across to the toe of the umpire's non-slot foot. So you can see the umpire is not squared here. He's actually opened up a little bit and is able to drop from this position because this allows a lot more flexibility than if his legs were toe to toe. There's a little more look at it if it's easier for you to see. These are the catcher's feet here. Here's the umpire's slot foot, heel, toe, and then heel, toe. And again, here's our Phoenix, Arizona umpire. He's out there working barefoot. We don't really recommend this, but you know, again, it gets pretty hot here. Just kidding. Okay, the slot foot here, it should be pointing forward. You know, we've got shin guards on. If we turn that foot, then the ball hits us, it's not going to hit the shin guard. So this keeps us relatively square to the plate. It keeps us facing the pitcher, and it keeps our exposed leg with the most protection. Now our non-slot foot over here is behind the catcher. So it's more protected from getting hit by a batted ball, and actually we want you to turn this foot just a little bit, and that's going to open you up. Don't turn it more than 45-degree angles or you'll be facing almost first base, because when you turn your foot, it's going to make your hips turn, and then you won't be able to see the pitcher or be relatively square to the plate. So angle this foot open a little bit to your comfort. It'll also add to the ease in your dropping set by opening that non-slot foot up just a little bit. Now, once you've opened this foot up, it has actually opened your hips up some, and your belly button should pretty much, if you drew a line from your belly button, it should cut the plate in half. So this is something you won't be able to try it during this film, but kind of remember it, and maybe after the film is over, give it a try here. Turning that slot foot, that's the one out in front that's exposed, will cause the body and the shoulders to turn. So get yourself in a stance and then turn that foot, and notice how your whole body sort of turns. You need to be aware of how these small things impact what you're doing, and therefore that impacts the kind of look or what you're seeing. So that happens too. Angling then the non-slot foot more than 45 degrees, or if you would place it further behind, like not on a heel toe with your slot foot, but further behind, that's going to cause your whole body, your shoulders to turn, and as I said before, you're going to be pretty much looking at first base, which will then cause you to have to turn your head in order to see the release of the feet. Now, here's a very interesting thing, and again, you should try this, that placement of the feet determines the position of your head from side to side. So if you step in and say you're shoulder width apart and you look at a point on the wall, if you take your right foot and just move it another foot out, you will see that you are no longer focused on that same point on the wall, but that your eyes have actually dropped slightly lower and moved to your right. This is important because some umpires think they are in the slot, and then right as they drop set, they move their feet, and that pulls their head out of the slot. So try this without being in a game so that you can see what exactly happens when you move your feet. Now, another thing is the wider you have your feet, the less deep you have to set. Because the wider you have your feet, your head will naturally drop lower, and that will affect the depth of the set that you need to do. However, you never want to get so wide that you have to struggle to stand out of that. You want something that is very balanced, makes you look very solid, and you can easily rise out of and get to another position. So now we're going to talk about dropping set, actually dropping into the set position. You've come into the slot, you've got your good heel toe stance, and now you're going to drop set. So when you drop set, you want to bend at the knees. You're not going to bend at the waist here. You want to bend at the knees. And try to keep your back fairly straight. Now, you go say, well, this isn't really straight. Well, yes, the back is straight, but it is slightly leaning forward, and that's okay. What you don't want to do is just completely bend at the waist. You want to keep your head height so you can see the whole zone. Remember, you're looking down and through the zone. If you let your head drop below the catcher's head, then you're going to take away your view of that outside pitch, and you will not be able to see the entire strike zone. Keeping your head above the catcher's head will also help you keep your eyes close to the top of the zone. Now we know that batters come in various sizes and heights. So sometimes actually when your chin is on the catcher's head, your eyes will be well above the zone of the batter, but you will still be able to see the top of the zone as well as look down and see the bottom of the zone. You should be completely dropped and set and absolutely still before the pitch is released. You should be motionless when the pitch is delivered. This allows you to see the ball come out of the pitcher's hand and to track it to the plate. This set position must be balanced and it must be comfortable. You're going to be using this over 100 times during the course of the game. But understand it is not a relaxed position. Remember, the weight is on your legs, so you're not leaning, you're not relaxed, but it must be balanced and comfortable. So when do you relax? You relax between pitches. You step out of your stance, you stand upright, you relax your body, and then you prepare for the next pitch. Tracking the pitch. From the set position, you should observe the release and the entire flight of the ball. You kind of put your nose on that ball and just watch it come in. Now, remember, we had to go set before the pitch was released. What this allowed you to do was quickly visualize the strike zone of the batter who is at the plate. With this visualization, you could draw the edges of the zone or visualize a translucent cube up there. And there it is, sitting on the plate. And now you're watching the pitch come to it. And right before that pitch reaches your zone, and there's your zone, that translucent cube, that you visualized by becoming set before the release of the pitch. There's that zone, and now the pitch is almost to that zone. Now you can almost take your eyes right off the ball, switch your focus to this zone that you have pre-visualized for this batter, and if the pitch touches any part of that zone, you've got a strike. Follow the ball with your nose. Don't jerk your head around with the ball. Your head is not a location indicator. Any movement of your head is simply so that you can watch the ball. And you notice here that we've got a strike. Timing. Timing is one of the hardest things for an umpire to learn, but it is also one of the things that will serve an umpire the very best. You can work at your timing. Follow the ball completely to the catcher's glove. This will make sure that the pitch is completely over before you start making a call. It will prevent you from calling a ball too quickly, and it actually gives you just an instant more time for you to really decide what you saw and what the pitch did and whether you've got a ball or a strike. Timing must be consistent every single pitch. If you change your timing, like you call a pitch before it reaches the catcher's glove, or you wait too long after it reaches the catcher's glove, this will create doubt. You may get the call right, but people will think that you doubted yourself. So timing is very important. When you call strikes, be aggressive. Be aggressive in calling strikes. What we mean by that is assume the pitch is a strike and make it convince you that it's not. Why call strikes? Why be aggressive? Why are strikes better? Well, to be perfectly honest, pitchers like strikes, and a happy pitcher usually makes for a happier umpire. Pitchers are further away from you than batters, and so by being at a distance, they are not quite so intimidated by your authority as perhaps a batter might be. And a pitcher's right there in the middle of the diamond. Everyone's looking at her. She's got center stage, so to speak, and therefore is more likely to physically express any displeasure in your call. Another thing about a pitcher is you're going to see her every inning for every single batter. Batters, on the other hand, you will probably only see maybe 3 times during the game. And because you are much closer to the batter, should they express any displeasure or something, you can talk to them in a quiet voice, and probably no one's going to know that you even had to address anything with them. So as you call a ball game, think about being aggressive. Now, I'm not talking about calling something way off the plate a strike. I'm just talking about those ones that, they just rub the edge, or maybe they come within a hair's width of rubbing the edge, and you say, well, that didn't actually hit the plate, so I'm going to call it a ball. Instead, call that one a strike. Rhythm. What is rhythm? Well, rhythm is really just consistent timing. It is a dedication to your routine of working the plate. And what rhythm does, it more or less sets the tempo of the game. People get used to how you're working, and they kind of play and come to the plate and throw the pitch and that sort of thing according to this tempo that you have set. It also reflects your control of the game and your control of yourself. Your rhythm can demonstrate your individuality. We're not advocating you try to do something special there, but just by your own dedicated routine, that will be your individuality. Now, one of the greatest things that rhythm does for you is that it inspires confidence in teams, players, and fans. They see you doing the same things the same way through the entire game. They just kind of figure, well, that umpire knows what he's doing. But another thing rhythm does for you is it helps you concentrate and therefore helps you be more consistent. By doing the same things, you can focus on your concentration rather than getting into your stance or dropping set or something like that. You can just focus on the pitch. Now, in an emotionally charged game, if you have good rhythm, you will appear completely undeterred when everyone else is all charged up emotionally, and you will appear completely unfettered, unruffled, totally in control, even if you're not. So you may be a little emotionally charged yourself, but if you stick with your rhythm, nobody is going to be the wiser. The parts of rhythm are using the same stance, using the same set, dropping set at the same time, calling all balls the same, calling all strikes the same, changing the emphasis as needed, and using the consistent timing we talked about. You know, there's no such thing as a close ball or a strike. In actuality, it is just one or the other. Every single ball is simply not a strike. It can be not a strike by an inch or by several feet. But by never emphasizing a ball call, it suggests to those involved that you've got the zone nailed. If you give a ball a little more emphasis because it's close to the plate, then, as I said before, people are going to think, well, that must have been close. He probably could have called that one a strike, or maybe it was. Maybe he's trying to sell us that it was a ball when he actually missed it. So balls should be called with the same tone, the same emphasis, the same volume, all through the game. We don't change anything for balls. Now, what about strikes? They're all the same too. If strike one just catches a corner, we don't emphasize that any more than if strike one cuts the plate in half. We have a certain emphasis for a called strike one or two. Now, we do change the emphasis on strike three, and we do change that emphasis whether it just nicks the edge or it cuts the heart out of the zone. Why? Why do we emphasize strike three more? Not because of its location, but because it's not only a strike, it's an out. And therefore, a strike three always gets more emphasis regardless of its location. The zone. Now, I'm here to tell you that it's not okay to call a pitch a strike that is really a ball, even if you do it all game long. I'm consistent. You've heard umpires say that. Yeah, I know the pitch was low, but I called that pitch a strike all game long. That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out for umpires who cannot, or more likely will not, call an accurate zone. How do we make the physical strike call? Well, the most common and probably the one taught most often is that we will verbalize the strike while we're in the down position, and then we will stand and actually signal the strike. We're not going to move our feet when we stand up. Why would you call it verbally one place and then show it physically another? Well, there's a good reason for that. While you're in the set position and the pitch crossed the plate and the catcher just caught it and you verbalize that it's a strike, the catcher, the batter know right away the pitch has been called a strike. Moments later, when you stand and signal, everyone else in the ballpark knows it is a strike. So the most important ones to know what the pitch is, find out first, and then the others find out. Now you see here I've got don't move your feet when you're standing up. Don't move your feet. You don't want people looking at your feet. And if you move your feet out of your stance as you stand to signal the strike, people are going to look at what's moving and they're going to look at your feet. You don't want them looking at your feet. You want them looking at this big sign of power here. So you want them to see you actually rise up. They're going to follow that motion, and there's not going to be any movement down in the feet. You're going to rise up, the arm's going to come up, and finally you're going to finish with this big climactic. Anyway, the climax of the strike call is the hammer, where you clench your hand into a fist and end the strike. So don't move your feet, because that draws away from the power of the strike call. And yes, I know this umpire does not have a mask on. That's what we call poetic license. Now, it is acceptable if you see the pitch, you do make no verbal call in this position. You stand, the same as we talked about standing before, without moving your feet, and you make the verbal call at the same time that you are making the physical call. You can use one or the other. The most common one is the verbal down and the physical up. The important thing is, and here we go back to our rhythm and our consistency, is that whichever one you do, that you use that one the entire game. You don't switch from verbalizing down for a while and then switch to verbalizing while you're standing up. Choose one or the other, use it the entire game. If you're just figuring out which one to use the verbal down and the physical up. Now, here's the physical ball call. The ball call is always made and verbalized from the down set position, and there is no signal to go with the ball call. We do not use our hands to indicate a pitch location, nor do we tip our head one direction or the other to indicate where the ball was located. You simply stay in your stance position. You say ball using the same volume, tone, and emphasis, and then you stand to a full standing position, step back out of your stance, and relax between pitches. That's working the plate. It's one of the most enjoyable things an umpire can do. And when you get a good stance, a good set, good timing, good rhythm, you're going to look awesome.